Do you have a low GPA? Are you worried on getting that dream admit? No worries. You are at the right place. Learn how our speaker managed to get his dream admit across Europe and US despite his low GPA and very little work ex. Hello everyone, I'm Avinash, the founder of Mentara, and you are watching Mentara Mindscapes, a podcast where I host international students from top global programs. In this episode, I have with me Aman Kuril. Aman is a friend from NIT Surathkal and is currently pursuing his dream program at Duke University. And he will be walking us through his experiences of getting admits from top European MIM programs and MEM programs in the US. Glad to have you on the show, Aman. It's a pleasure to host you, and I believe many of our viewers will learn a lot from your student experiences in the US.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me here, Vinash. Knowing you since the last few years, I have deep faith in Mentara, and I'm glad to be here and glad to answer any questions that anyone would like to know.
Sure, thanks a lot. So, today we'll be covering about Aman's experience while he was applying for the MEM programs, MEM and the MIM programs in Europe and the USA. So, Aman, to begin with, I would love for you to walk us through your profile and anything that helps the viewer understand what kind of profile gets into an top MEM program like Duke.
Right. Okay. So I did my undergrad in metallurgical and materials engineering from NITK Surathkal. With you, I mean, we're in the same college, so that's a great thing. And apart from that, I had few internships, but they were in startups towards the field of business, such as business analytics, growth marketing, and so on. So I got a diverse perspective of business, and that's what drove me to management programs such as MIM and MEM. So after that, I actually wanted to work for a couple of years to gain some exposure to the corporate world, and hence I got a job in Quantify, where I worked for 2 years as a business analyst and gained exposure to fields such as program management, product management, and strategy. Apart from that, I had a couple of leadership positions in my college, where I held three leadership positions in total, and I felt those were the major things that helped me get into these colleges. My CGPA was not that great; it was 7.34 on a scale of 10. So, if anyone has a low GPA, I mean, it's your chance to have some hope that you can get into top programs. And I feel that my leadership experiences were able to somehow mitigate the low GPA that I had, and here I am at Duke now.
With 2 years of experience and like amazing extracurricular, you could have gotten into a Indian MBA or probably waited for a few more years and went for an MBA abroad. Could you please like give us a brief of your like how did you come to a conclusion that you want to pursue a master's over an MBA, and how did you choose US?
One of the NITK alumni came from HEC Paris, and he was talking about the MIM
Yes,
programs over there. And
yes,
I just love the way the education was there. It's nothing to do with the Indian education system. It's great,
mm,
especially in top Indian business schools. But just the ability to go into another country to gather various perspectives and to use that in your own personality shaping, that is something that really made me curious. So I think at
yes.
that point in time, I kind of decided that I wanted to do a master's outside of India. And at that point of time, I was highly inclined towards MIM. In my third and fourth years of college, I was highly inclined towards MIM. And then I got to learn about deferred MBA programs. I also applied for deferred MBA programs, but unfortunately, I did get interviews for some, but I couldn't get into any. But at that point of time, I realized that maybe combining tech with management would be a way to go ahead. As Quantify was in when I worked in Quantify, it was a lot of work with AI, and I genuinely enjoyed working with technology. So that is how I came to know about MEM, which was a perfect mix of tech and management. So I just thought that maybe for few years, if I go outside of India, work, and take that perspective back and come back, I think that would lead to a more coherent experience personally and professionally. So I think that is why I eventually decided for MEM. I mean, I also applied for MIM programs just for backup, but the
Okay.
goal was always Duke. My preferred school was always Duke, and I was fortunate enough to get into it.
Got it. And how did you like? like once you apply to MIM and MEM programs, and like for those of you listening, it's quite like the name might seem very like familiar, like Masters in Management and Masters in Engineering Management, but they are quite different. MEMs are quite technical, and MIMs are very like mini MBA of sorts, or probably Indian MBAs are MIMs of Europe. I like to put it this way. So how did you actually like decide between which where to go? Was it the country that helped you decide, can I want to be in the US? It's a tech hub and whatnot, or was it some other underlying decisions and factors that you took into consideration?
Right. Okay. So after I couldn't get into any deferred MBA program, the aim was to gather some years of work experience at max 2 and then get outside, right? And
Hmm.
MIM could offer roles into strategy, consulting, marketing, and that is something I did. And MEM does that exactly, but with more focus on tech. So it's like a
Yes.
strategic role in a tech organization. That's exactly what I'm doing in Micron as well. So a major thing for me was the course duration. The course duration at Duke is just 15 months, while a lot of
Yes.
MIM programs run for 3 years with an apprenticeship
Yes.
and internship programs in the middle year, that is the second year.
Yes.
So that was one of the reasons why I tilted towards MEM. And I also found US to be more lucrative, if I'm being very honest. And I just thought that maybe few years of working in California or New York would be amazing. So I think those were the major reasons why I thought Duke was the best. And I also talked to a lot of alumni at Duke, and they were really helpful. I think out of all the schools that I applied to, Duke alumni went beyond their way to answer my queries. I bugged few of them a lot of times, and they never made me feel like that I was asking them a lot of questions. They always answered it very politely.
There's a common belief of giving out, like paying it forward to what on the name of those who helped us. Like I am here, like sitting here recording a podcast, building Mentara, not because I had all the privileges and I did everything right. There are people
Yeah.
who helped me knock on the right doors, open some of them at the right time, and I could just cross it. So I realized the importance of mentorship in my journey as a someone coming with a non-core, like non-CAC background, navigating the challenges of an corporate life, not liking it, making a pivot early on in your career. It was
Mm.
someone there who held my hand, told me what to do, sometimes told me what not to do. So that's the entire idea behind Mentara. When you are applying to schools abroad, when you're navigating the challenges as an international student in a country, in a different country, there are a lot of things you're not sure about. There are a lot of things you don't know, and you wish that uh, if there was someone, if only I had a relative, if only I had a cousin or a brother or someone. So that's where the idea of Mentara came in, and also from the personal struggles that I faced in the fall 2024 applications. So people
Mm.
who like Aman is a mentor on platform. So anyone who joins in, and if you want his guidance, he's more than happy to like explain you the insights that he got through his application, and also what he learned during his experiences as a Duke student. So this is what Mentara does: connects you with people, those who have actually done it, those who have walked the path before you, and those who are interested in giving it back. These are all the three qualities of our mentors. And so, Aman, moving ahead, I would love to know about, you had this amazing 2 years of work at Quantify. You had some amazing leadership experiences. So now, how you drove like all that together, combined it, and presented it to the admissions committee. Like, what were your key strengths that you showcased in the profile for your MEM and the MIM applications?
Right. Okay. So one thing to let everyone know that I graduated in 2021, and that is when I started applying for the programs. I deferred 1 year, so I didn't have a lot of work experience at Quantify when I was applying for these programs. And at that point of time, I just thought that my major strength was the leadership positions, because it, like you said, that it held some impact on the rankings and on the placements. So I had tangible outcomes to show to the admissions committee at MIM programs and MEM programs. So that is what I did. I tried. So at MEM, it was about showing them that I had the right amount of technical skills as well, and that came from the analytical projects that I had done while being a part of IST. That included. Excel, then Tableau, and all of that. So I included that as a part of my application. So alongside my servant leadership skills, the fact that I had won few case competitions on a national level that inculcated some aspect of strategy. So those are few things that I took towards the MEM programs, and also the fact that I was working in an AI driven company at that point in time, which was Quantify. So I took that for the MEM programs. For the MEM programs, the more focus was on the strategic aspects. So I took all of my things, tailored it to look like it was strategy, which it was. And also, when it came to Quantify, more than the AI part, I focused more on the strategy bit that I was doing over there. So I feel it's very important to understand what the program is trying to give you and tailor your application accordingly. You could have one
Yes.
experience, you can tailor it in 100 ways. It's very easy to tailor it. And now that ChatGPT, Claude, so many LLM models are there, you can do it more easily. But at that point of time,
Yes.
I thought I created few blogs such as strategy, technical, analytics, and so on. And I just molded all of them and created few essays for every school.
I would love to know your story of how you discovered the MEM programs and how did you what are the programs you applied to in the MEM category?
Right. So, as you've seen my story, Avinash, I think you would know that I'm very inclined towards strategy and the business
Mm.
aspect. So, while
Yes.
looking for MEM programs, the major focus was how strategy or how business oriented it could be. And
Mm.
I was trying to research about more master's programs that I could get into without working for 3-4 years, because even for MBA, it's very rare to get inside of a top business school after 3 years of work experience. So I
Got it.
realized I would have to work for like minimum 4 years in India to get a business school in US. So I just
Yes.
thought maybe work for 1-2 years. So I started looking for those programs. So I stumbled upon MSBA, MSIM,
Yes.
and then MEM. So at MEM, the major focus was to look at schools, top schools, and see their course curriculum. And I only found 3 schools that I felt could cater to me. The school that catered to me was the most was Duke, because I felt I almost feel, I tell it to everyone that it almost feels like a tech MBA. Like there are few
Yes.
courses which you do really well at Duke. I think they'll set up you for success in the professional life. Apart from that, there was Dartmouth and Cornell. So I just applied to 3 schools in US. Fortunately, I got admitted to Duke because I think Dartmouth and Cornell didn't give me an admit because of my low GPA. So I definitely thought that my low GPA was a hindrance. So if at all there is an issue like that in your profile where you feel you have a low GPA or something which is not connecting well, it's very important to make up for it. I tried giving GRE to make up for my low GPA. I got a 319, which is a decent score, but it's not that good of a score that I could get into Dartmouth, where the average GRE score was 324. So it's very important to understand the school that you want to get into, the requirements that it has, and then go about your application.
The programs you
Amen.
applied to in your MIM category and the
Right.
admits that you received.
Right. So in MIM, there's this application called Join a School in France, where you have to just submit a single application, and it sends your application to 5 schools, and they are HEC Paris, ESCP Europe, Schema Business School, MILON, and Audencia. So you just submit one application, and then the
Mm.
schools that are interested in you call you for an interview. So I submitted my application in the second round, and when I was submitting, I knew mostly that I wouldn't get into HEC because the average GRE score was 323 or 324 over there as well. So I got interviews from 4 of the other schools, and I cracked all of them. I got scholarships in few of them as well. But like I told you, the main aim was to get into MEM like a 15-month course. Because
Mm.
to be very
Yes.
honest with you, I view time in a very different way. I realized that I have these many years in my 20s where I want to maximize my working potential, then probably
Yes.
return back to India. So if I was doing MIM, it would mean like 3 years of studying and then more work. So it would delay my process of
Yes.
coming back. So my
Yes.
current
Yes.
thinking was like that, and that's why I decided for Duke.
Got it. Got it. So, to everyone listening, I would just like to highlight this. CGPA is not the only criteria where you are judged upon. Like Aman made it to Duke but got rejects from Dartmouth and Cornell. Again, we don't know the reason. It's his speculation that probably he was rejected because of CGPA. And similarly, on the contrary, in the MIM category, he got into 4 out of the 5 schools he applied to. So don't self-reject yourself. Don't self-doubt ki you will not make it to a program because the CG is low. Because you might have, you can take a look at Anindya's podcast where with a 6 CGPA he made it to CMU software engineering program. So CGPA is not the only criteria that schools judge you on. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to you as a person. and the application that you put in. So try to bring in a more holistic approach of how you see yourself, your achievements, and what you show the like admission committee. Don't just write I had a low CGPA because of XYZ reasons. There's a lot more you can write, and not even highlight the low CGPA. Let them take a look and see if you'll be the right fit for them or not.
Yeah. But
So
just to
Aman,
highlight one more
yes,
thing,
yes.
I would love to say that, I agree with you when you said that don't self reject yourself. When I was applying for the deferred MBA programs, my GPA was around 6.94, and I got an interview from University of Virginia Darden Business School, which was really nice. So
Yes.
I still don't know the reason why I was rejected or something like that, but it's always very important to highlight your strengths and just take a shot. If you're not taking a shot, you're already rejected. So take a shot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like at least Aman applied to deferred MBAs. I was not even aware that there is something called deferred MBAs. So just see the difference here. Like just being more proactive, just being more aware of the options available. You are probably leading from your friends, your peers who maybe probably have a higher GPA. So just be there, be out there, keep firing your shots. You'll definitely land somewhere good, the place that you deserve or where stars align. So,
Yeah.
Aman, moving ahead, this is a mistake that most of the Indian applicants do, even I did. So, not being able to complete the applications within the round one deadlines. There are a lot of rumors that if you don't do it within round one, you don't get scholarship, you don't get an admit, and whatnot. So, could you please walk us through what was the timeline? Like, what was the timeline for your application? Like, when did you start? When did you have your GRE scores? By what time did you finish up and submitted all your applications?
Right, yeah. Unfortunately, Avinash, I think I fall in the same category as you. So the process for me was it was also very last minute. I would not recommend it to anyone, but just to let you know, I'll tell you what I did. So the round one deadline for Duke was around 15 January, and I started preparing for GRE around November 2021. Gave my GRE on 28th December, and the round 2 deadline for the MIM schools was 5th January. So while I was writing my GRE, I was also getting all the LORs, and I knew that
Yes,
I could write good SOPs because I knew my story from the deferred MBA programs that I applied to. So I knew writing that on high quality wouldn't be a problem. Getting a good GRE score was the highest priority for me. So I knew I could get it that late and still submit my application. So I kind of took that because I was also having a bit of work at quantifying. It's always hard to work and then apply and then
yes,
do everything. So that was a pretty strict, that was a very tight deadline for me. So by 5th, I submitted my application. I remember it was a very stressful time, but I was enjoying it. I honestly enjoyed it. On 8th,
yes,
I had my IELTS. I got an 8.5. And on 15th, I had all the applications for the MEM programs. So I think it was very tightly packed, but then the caveat here is that I knew my story. I knew what to sell about myself
yes,
because I had already done the deferred MBA applications. So for anyone who's starting new, I would always say start from September. If the round one deadline is on 15 January, it's easier to get an admit into round one because that's the time they're
yes,
starting fresh. Let's say if you and I we have the same profile, if I apply in round one and if I get in, and if you're applying in round two, they already have someone like me who fits their bill. So
yes,
why would they select you? So it
yes,
things like those really matter. I mean, if given a chance, always apply in round one. But then I got into 4 out of 5 business schools I applied to in round two. So
yes,
yeah, I mean, as long as you have quality, take your shot. And I know a couple of my friends who got into top MIM programs in round 2 and round 3 deadlines as well. So the goal is to maximize your chances of applying by round 1. But if you are not being able to, apply by round 2 if you want to. I got scholarships in round 2 as well. So yeah.
As a student or as an applicant, like I had three phases of my study abroad journey. The first one came in my second year of college, where I wanted to be a mechanical engineer at Audi or probably BMW or Daimler, probably working
Yeah.
for one of this F1 sports team and whatnot, like
Yeah.
study mechanical engineering at Germany. Uh,
Yeah.
After second year, when I realized, okay, this is not going to happen, mechanical is not something I can pursue research or further studies in, I pivoted to business analytics program because I was doing machine learning and data analytics in my college.
Mhm.
Till this final year of college, I was very confident I can write my own SOP. I have a lot of seniors to get reviewed it from and whatnot. Once I entered the job force, once I started working, I lost that confidence. I was no more very confident I can do it on my own. I needed people who can review, and I just lost touch from a lot of friends and a lot of seniors due to COVID or just life came by, whatever.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
would love to know, and The only problem that I had when I started writing the SOPs for fall 2024, how do I start it? What goes in the first para, what goes in the second para?
Yeah.
I was clueless. I saw the templates on the internet. I felt, no, if I write a template based essay or an SOP, I will not get an admit. I wanted to put in something unique, but at the same time, I was very clueless. So, given that you have a unique experience of applying to different MBAs and getting interviews from them, and then getting into Duke and other MIM programs, I would love to know what was your strategy for the SOPs. How did you approach it? What was your entire thought process while you started writing it? Take a brief on how did you collect your thoughts? How did you put it down on the paper, and how did you get it reviewed or iterated it to make a final draft that you ultimately submitted?
Yeah, right. So, in my mind, there was a story already that I came to NITK and then did a lot of leadership positions, which inclined me towards strategy. And then I have to get to the next step where Quantify is coming in between for a brief amount of time, but then the next step is masters. So,
Yes.
where I had certain word limits, because there are essays that in MIM programs there were short answers for like 80 words or 80 characters. I don't remember, but it was very short. I don't think it would be 80 characters, but it was very short. So, uh, in those examples, I would always write things very concisely, and the goal was to always highlight the positives that could be lost due to the negatives I had. So, for example, if my GPA was 7.34, if someone thinks that okay, he might not be strong on an academic level, I would always highlight how I got into NITK, which was ranked very high in our in India, right? So
Yes.
things like that you need to negate about for what you have already lost. So things like that were in my mind, and because I had some marketing experience, I think I was decent enough in storytelling. So it was very easy for me to write the drafts. Like I told you, getting a good GRE score was a challenge, not the
Priority. Yes.
SOP personally. So I started by highlighting how I got into NITK, how I liked few things, and then highlighting achievements. It's very important to highlight the process that you enjoyed, but what was the outcome of it? I mean, we talk about being process oriented and it's good, but unfortunately, the outcomes want to see the results or like how
Yes.
you did what you did. So I focus a lot on results to focus on them in a quantified manner. So I would always quantify how I was in top 10% of a certain thing, or how I came first out of 500 plus teams in a case competition. So things like that were the peak points. It's always important to have certain peak points in your SOP where the person who's reading it goes like, oh wow, this guy has done that.
Yes.
So it's
True.
very important to have those peak points, and where there are word limits, highlight your biggest strength in accordance with the question in a concise way. So I think those are a few things that I followed.
Got it. Just to add on to what Aman mentioned, so when an AdCom, just imagine a stranger in US who has no clue of your undergrad collegiate student club, who has no clue of the number of colleges in India or the batch size of your particular undergrad batch. If you don't mention the numbers, if you don't show him the relative performance, he will never know if you're the top 10% or the bottom 10%. Just writing that I won this does not mean anything until unless you mention out of 27 teams, because
Right.
you can participate in a team of 3 and you can still win. Like it's like
Yeah.
not even running, there's two people running a race and you come second. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's your responsibility to quantify your achievements in a way that the admission committee realizes that you have those core skills that you want to highlight. So this
Yeah.
is where most of the SOPs probably are rejected, because they're not able to understand about you from that written paragraph. They don't know you. They don't have anything beyond your resume, your SOP, and probably if they look at LinkedIn profile at all, by clicking a link on the resume. So be more like aware of what you are gonna write, so that a stranger trusts you by your word and believes you, okay, probably he's a good fit for our XYZ program.
Yeah, and just to add two things to this, if you remember earlier, we were talking about how to push things. So that's a very nice
Yes.
example that you gave. I could say that I achieved a goal or something like that. But the way you said that, if you achieved a goal and if you tripled it or excelled it, use
Yes.
that, mention something
Yes.
extra. So there's something you can push in your SOPs as well. If you write something, think about how you can make it better. And it's always good to tailor your essays according to the school, because a lot of schools have a lot of
Yes.
values. Like Duke has 5 pillars, the Duke MEM
Yes.
program. So if you can highlight those skills or those points in your application, you always get brownie point.
The another very crucial aspect of an application is taking recommendations, because again, The AdCom does not know you. You are a stranger to them. It's the SOP, and then the validation from 3 or 4 or 2 different other people who are gonna vouch for you. How did you strategize the LOR part? How did you made sure that you show the right qualities? Because you were a fresher, you were applying to a MEM program that is very competitive. Like Duke is one of the most competitive MEM programs. Again, similarly in the MIM aspects, HEC Paris is ranked one for almost remember almost a decade now. They're ranked one in their MIM category. What is the strategy behind uh, getting the LORs, producing the right qualities across it? Could you please walk us through that?
Yeah, right. So I have heard a lot of times that the position of a person who's giving you a LOR matters a lot, and I don't know about that because so I usually worked in startups or then Quantify, and in Quantify also I had like 4 months of experience when I was applying for applications. So my idea was to highlight my values through the LORs that I was going to get. I didn't care about the position at that point of time. The idea was to uh, get the LORs in a way that would highlight my core and strength. So I got one from my professor in NITK, Professor Sheena, that I did a project under. So that project was about analytics and how I merged analytics with strategy for business decisions. That is a core tenet of MEM, right? Using technology to make better business. So I did that with Professor Sheena, and then I did an internship under Ayush Srivastava, who's like a mentor to me for growth folks. And I actually helped up an event start from scratch, and it was sponsored by Microsoft, and that was kind of a first sort of a growth hackathon within the country. So it was important to highlight that I had that entrepreneurial drive as well. So I used Ayush for that, so he could vouch for the work ethic that I had. And then I wanted to highlight the leadership aspects that I had. So Ashwin, who was a part of the business society that I took from him, and he was also part of the placement team. So he had seen my work in my final year. So I thought taking one from him would really matter, because I think that was going to be the best in my opinion. Because if they see good leadership skills, I feel they are more likely to get you in. That's my speculation. I'm not too sure about it, but I got one from Ashwin, who had like 1 or 2 years of work experience at that point in time, and a lot of people told me maybe get another recommender or someone, but I knew the qualities that he could highlight by seeing my work no one else could. So I did that, and fortunately, I mean, those recommendations worked, and that's how I was able to crack 5 schools. So I think it's very important to understand what the school wants and then use your recommendations. There were some schools who wanted just one recommendation, so it's very important to understand which recommendation are you going to give over there. So I think wherever they asked for 2 recommendations, I always gave the one that was from my marketing internship, and then one from my leadership positions in my college, because I thought they were more relevant.
Got it. So just to add on to what Aman started his answer with, people sometimes chase positions of the recommender. So an advice would be to not run after titles and run after folks who can really write an LOR for you. But that also means don't ask for LORs from your friends.
Yeah.
This should be some generality of sorts. It's not like you go to your school friend and make them some sort of manager in some random company and ask them to write an LOR for you. Now that you know the secret sauce of standing out from the rest of the applicants, it's time to work on your networking game and get that internship and dream offer right now. Watch this video here to learn the art of networking as an international student in the US.